Have you ever eaten something that seemed harmless? Maybe a simple sandwich or a bowl of pasta. And then, hours later, you're wondering why your knees feel tight or your back is aching more than usual. Hi, I'm Marcus Smart. I'm 67 years old, and let me tell you something I wish I'd learned a lot earlier. Food can be your medicine or your worst trigger. Choose wisely. Chronic pain has a sneaky way of creeping into our lives after 60. It shows up in our joints, our muscles, our digestion, even our sleep. And most of us are so used to it, we start to believe it's just a part of getting older. But here's the truth no one tells you. Pain after 60 is common, but it's not always necessary. The real culprit behind much of that discomfort? Inflammation. Now, don't let that word scare you. Inflammation is your body's natural response to stress or injury. But when it lingers for too long, it becomes like an unwelcome guest who won't leave, slowly damaging tissue, triggering chronic pain, and even contributing to heart disease, diabetes, and memory loss. And here's the part that shocked me most. The biggest driver of that silent inflammation? It's not just age or genetics or even wear and tear. It's what we eat. Yep, that healthy-looking muffin, that low-fat yogurt with fruit on the bottom, even that glass of orange juice in the morning. All of them can be silently setting your body on fire from the inside out. But the good news is just as powerful. If food can cause inflammation, it can also calm it down. Nature has packed certain foods with anti-inflammatory compounds that act like firefighters, cooling the body, easing pain, and helping you stay independent and vibrant well into your 70s and 80s. That's what this video is all about. Today, we're going to explore 10 of the most powerful anti-inflammatory foods you can start eating right now to reduce chronic pain and reclaim control over your health. No gimmicks, no fancy powders. Just real, accessible food that's been quietly healing people for generations. Let's start with one that's probably already in your kitchen: extra virgin olive oil. This is not just a salad dressing. It's liquid gold for your joints. Olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal, which acts like natural ibuprofen. That's right. A tablespoon of olive oil can work on pain in the same way as over-the-counter pain relievers, but without the side effects. I started using it instead of butter or margarine, and not only did my cooking taste better, but I started waking up with less stiffness in my hands and knees. But here's the catch. Not all olive oils are created equal. If you're going to do this right, go for cold-pressed extra virgin and try to get one that's stored in a dark glass bottle. That helps preserve those precious anti-inflammatory properties. And yes, you can cook with it too. Just keep the heat medium or low. Now let's talk about something a little more colorful: berries. Blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, whatever kind you like. They're all packed with antioxidants called anthocyanins. These help block the inflammatory pathways in your body. Think of them like tiny protectors patrolling your bloodstream, calming things down where inflammation is trying to rise. I used to think berries were just a treat, something sweet to throw on cereal. But now, I see them as a daily necessity. I keep a bag of frozen blueberries in the freezer, and every morning I toss a handful into oatmeal. It's simple, it's delicious, and over time, it genuinely made a difference in how I felt, especially in my lower back, which used to ache after sitting too long. Now, moving from sweet to savory, let's talk about fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel. These are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which are one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatories out there. When you eat enough omega-3 South, They actually replace some of the more harmful fats in your cells, meaning your body becomes less reactive to pain and swelling. You don't have to become a sushi expert or eat fish every day. I started by having baked salmon once or twice a week, seasoned with lemon and herbs. Within a few weeks, the difference in how I felt walking up the stairs was real. Less creaking in the knees, more energy in the morning. And it wasn't magic. It was just smart, simple food choices stacking up over time. And I want to mention one more powerful helper here: leafy greens. I know they're not the most exciting food on the plate, but spinach, kale, arugula, and collard greens are full of magnesium and vitamin E, both of which help regulate the body's inflammatory response. I used to ignore these greens. Now I toss them into everything: eggs, smoothies, even soups. You don't need to eat a mountain of salad every day. Just find ways to sneak them in. You'll be surprised how much better your body feels when you give it the nutrients it's quietly been begging for. These first few foods: olive oil, berries, fatty fish, and leafy greens. They're just the beginning of what's possible. You don't have to overhaul your entire diet overnight. You just have to start making small, intentional swaps. A handful of berries instead of a muffin. A drizzle of olive oil instead of bottled dressing. One step at a time. You're not just reducing pain, you're reclaiming the energy, clarity, and confidence that aging never had to take from you in the first place. Now, if you're still with me, you've probably already started picturing your next grocery trip a little differently. Maybe you've even looked in your fridge and thought, okay, I've got the olive oil. I've got some berries. Now, what? Well, let's keep going. Because the foods we're talking about aren't just about easing pain today. They're about giving your body the tools to keep going strong next year. And the year after that. The more we reduce inflammation now, the better chance we have of staying mobile, independent, and full of life as we age. So, let's talk about one of the most underrated foods in the fight against chronic pain: turmeric. You've probably heard of it. It's that deep yellow spice used in curries. But what you might not know is that turmeric contains a compound called curcumin, which is one of the most studied natural anti-inflammatories in the world. Scientists have found that curcumin can block molecules in the body that trigger inflammation, the same way some pharmaceutical drugs do, but without the risk of stomach problems or long-term side effects. The thing is, turmeric by itself doesn't absorb very well into the bloodstream. So if you want the benefits, combine it with a pinch of black pepper. The pepper contains something called piperin, which helps your body absorb the curcumin up to 2,000% more effectively. Crazy, right? I started adding a turmeric pepper blend to my morning eggs, my soups, even just warm water with lemon. And it's one of those little rituals that makes me feel like I'm doing something kind for my body every day. Now, let's move on to something heartier: nuts, especially walnuts and almonds. These tiny packages are loaded with healthy fats, fiber, and antioxidants. Walnuts, in particular, are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, just like salmon. And almonds are packed with vitamin E, which is known to protect the body from oxidative stress, one of the key triggers of inflammation. But what I really love about nuts is how easy they are. No prep, no cooking. Just grab a handful. I keep a small jar of mixed nuts on my kitchen counter and one in the car. That way, when I'm hungry between meals, I don't reach for crackers or chips. I reach for something that actually supports my joints and helps with pain. Let's not forget one of the most ancient and powerful anti-inflammatory foods out: their green tea. Now, I know some of you are coffee lovers, and that's fine. I am too. But adding 1 or 2 cups of green tea to your day can work wonders. Green tea contains something called epigallocatechin gallate, or EGCG for short, a compound that fights inflammation, supports your immune system, and even protects cartilage from breaking down. I like to think of green tea as a gentle detox. It hydrates you, calms your nervous system, and gives your body a break from sugary drinks or excess caffeine. I started drinking a cup mid-morning or after lunch, and not only did I notice fewer energy crashes, but my digestion improved and my hands stopped feeling so puffy by the end of the day. Speaking of hydration, this next one might surprise you. Avocados. They're creamy, delicious, and full of monounsaturated fats, the kind that soothe inflammation rather than spark it. But here's something you might not know. Avocados also contain a variety of phytochemicals and carotenoids that help reduce inflammation in the joints, especially for people with arthritis. I used to avoid avocados, thinking they were too high in fat. But once I realized that it's the type of fat that matters, I started adding half an avocado to toast in the morning or slicing it into salads. And the results spoke for themselves. Better flexibility in my wrists, easier time gardening, fewer aches after walking. All these foods are incredible, but none of them work in isolation. You see, the power comes in patterns. When you start eating more of these anti-inflammatory foods consistently, your body begins to shift. It stops reacting so aggressively to stress. Your joints start to move more easily. You wake up without that same sense of heaviness. And that brings me to one of my favorite additions, garlic. Now, garlic isn't just for flavor. It contains sulfur compounds that block inflammatory pathways in the body. In fact, some studies have found garlic can reduce symptoms in people with osteoarthritis and even lower the risk of chronic illnesses like heart disease and high blood pressure, which often go hand in hand with inflammation. The best part? Garlic makes everything taste better. I chop it up and throw it in nearly everything I cook. And over time, I noticed not only was I using fewer sauces and less salt, but my meals felt more satisfying, and my body felt less bloated after eating. These foods, turmeric, nuts, green tea, avocados, garlic, they're not exotic or hard to find. They're simple. And when you make them part of your everyday routine, they quietly go to work in the background. You might not feel a huge difference overnight, but give it a few weeks, and you'll notice something shift. Maybe it's the way you get out of bed without groaning. Maybe it's the way your fingers move more freely when you button your shirt. Maybe it's the fact that you don't need to reach for pain meds quite as often. And when that happens, you realize this whole anti-inflammatory thing, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. A way of supporting your body with the respect it deserves, after everything it's carried you through. You've come this far, and that already tells me something about you. You're not just passively accepting the aches and pains that come with age. You're choosing to be active, intentional, and hopeful. That's powerful, because every small choice we make, every bite we take, becomes part of how we feel tomorrow. And when it comes to inflammation and chronic pain, the right foods can make all the difference. Now, let's talk about one of the most overlooked, but seriously, powerful anti-inflammatory foods, broccoli. I know. It's not exactly the most exciting thing on the plate. But broccoli, along with other cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, is packed with something called sulforaphane. That's a fancy name for a natural compound that helps block inflammation at the cellular level. Here's the thing: you don't need to eat a mountain of broccoli to get the benefits. Lightly steaming it a few times a week is enough to make a difference. I like to toss mine with olive oil, garlic, and a squeeze of lemon, and suddenly it's not just healthy, it's delicious. Plus, it pairs well with pretty much anything. Fish, chicken, or just on its own as a snack. Speaking of healthy pairings, let's talk about one of my favorite natural pain relievers, berries. Whether it's blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, or blackberries, these little fruits are bursting with antioxidants that fight oxidative stress and inflammation. They're also high in fiber and vitamin C, which helps support your immune system and reduce joint stiffness. I started keeping frozen berries in the freezer so I can throw them into oatmeal or smoothies anytime. And I'll tell you, there's nothing better than a cold berry smoothie after a morning walk. It's refreshing, energizing, and healing all in one. Now, let me bring up something we all love, dark chocolate. Yes, you heard that right. Real, dark chocolate to 70% cocoa or higher contains flavonoids that help reduce inflammation and protect the lining of your blood vessels. The key here is moderation. A small square or two after dinner can be a treat for your taste buds and your joints. Just be mindful of sugar content, because sugar is a sneaky trigger for inflammation. But if you choose high-quality dark chocolate with minimal sugar, you're actually doing your body a favor. And let's be honest, it feels good to enjoy a little indulgence. That's also doing something positive for your health thought. And before we wrap up, I want to talk about one final food, or really, a group of foods that can completely transform how your body feels. Fermented foods. Think yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, and miso. These are rich in probiotics, the good bacteria that keep your gut healthy. And when your gut is healthy, inflammation in the rest of the body often goes down too. I used to think probiotics were just for digestion, but what I've learned, and what science is now confirming, is that the gut and the brain, the gut and the joints, the gut and the immune system, they're all connected. A healthier gut means less bloating, better sleep, clearer thinking, and yes, less chronic pain. I started with just a spoonful of sauerkraut with lunch. Then I added plain kefir to my smoothies. Nothing fancy, just simple additions that slowly but surely began to shift how I felt throughout the day. And that's the beauty of this whole journey. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to start. One food, one swap, one better choice at a time. Because at the end of the day, what we put on our plate is about more than just nutrients or calories. It's about how we want to live. Do we want to stay stuck in cycles of pain and stiffness? Or do we want to feel freer, stronger, lighter in our own skin? You know, when I turned 67, I told myself something. You still have time. Time to feel good again. Time to enjoy the little things without pain. Time to take control. And food was the first place I started. Not a diet, not a cleanse. Just a quiet, consistent shift toward foods that heal rather than harm. So if you're sitting there thinking, can I really feel better just by changing what I eat? I want you to know, yes, you can. The body is always ready to respond. Even in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, healing is possible. It's never too late. To recap, not in a list, but in spirit, you now know that foods like turmeric, nuts, green tea, avocados, garlic, broccoli, berries, dark chocolate, and fermented foods can work quietly in the background to ease your pain, improve your energy, and support a longer, more independent life. So don't wait. Try one. Try three. Keep going until your body starts sending you little thank you notes. fewer flare-ups, better sleep, smoother mornings. And when it happens, don't forget to smile and say, "This is what healing feels like." Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Have you tried any of these anti-inflammatory foods before? What's helped you feel better in your 60s or 70s? Drop a comment below. You might inspire someone else who's just starting their journey. And if this video gave you even one helpful idea, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more real, simple tips to help you feel stronger, healthier, and more vibrant, no matter your age. Thanks for spending this time with me. Remember, your best years don't have to be behind you. They can still be ahead, filled with comfort, movement, and peace. You deserve that. And I'll be right here, cheering you on every step of the way. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.